friends, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how I am no longer in a reading slump because I read, wait for it, 10 books in the month of December. So let's just get into it because it's obvious, I have a lot of books and I'm sure I will have a lot of opinions to share. But if you guys want to let me know what you guys read in December, leave the comments down below and we can have a fun little discussion. Or what books you are hoping to read in January that maybe you didn't get a chance to get to last month. But other than that, subscribe, like, comment, all the fun stuff, and let's go. So like I said, I read a total of 10 books in the month of December. Some were holiday themed, some were not. I read a total of 3 audiobooks, 6 ebooks, and 1 physical book, but since I'm going to be posting up all the pictures of the books I read. So the first book I'm going to start off with is Serpent and the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. This is an adult romantasy series. Oraya, who is a human stuck in a den full of vampires, she joins this competition to be able to kind of eventually win and become like a pseudo-vampire for her to be able to help her father out in his kingdom. In this thing, she ends up meeting Rain, who is a vampire who allies with her, and things start to ensue. I gave the first book 3 out of 5 stars. I gave the second book 4 out of 5 stars. Yes, 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed these 2 books. I don't think I'll continue on with this series, and I'll get to that in a second. But this series will not change your DNA in any way, shape, or form. It was a fun series, I think, for me to just kind of get myself back into fantasy that didn't involve a lot of heavy world building and didn't try too much to be more than what it was, which was a fantasy novel with lots of romance, not a lot of world building, and this takes very much varied from chapter to chapter. I enjoyed it. I had a really good time reading it. It was a lot of fun. I might not continue on with the series just because it switches POVs pretty drastically. We switch over to Misha's point of view in the 3rd and 4th books, I believe, and it just sounds so wildly different from the original 2 that I kind of want to take a little bit of a breather before I hop into the 3rd book, or try to, and be disappointed that it's not like the 1st and the 2nd book in pacing, plot, or structure at all. Moving on to the holiday romances and holiday books I read in the month of December. But the first one is Holly Jolly Diwali by Sonia Lally. This is an adult romance following Nikki. Yeah, Nikki, who has kind of always followed the book. She's always listened to her parents on what she does. Then she gets laid off from her job and she finds that she's kind of at a weird crossroads. So she ends up going to Mumbai to celebrate her friend's wedding and go on like the group honeymoon trip that they had planned. And while in Mumbai, she meets Sam, who is very much not what she would categorize as like her type in any way, shape, or form. He's very free-spirited, very much where the wind takes me. And it just watches as their romance unfolds, and like Nikki has like this weird timer going on trying to figure out how she's going to balance this relationship, how she's going to go back to reality, and etc, etc. I give this a 3 out of 5 stars. This just tried to be too much, I fear. We have Nikki struggling with her identity and her place in like this, in the Indian world, or like, yeah, where she stands as an Indian, how she feels about that. We have her struggling with following the rules as a perfect daughter. We have her struggling with this romance because she has a guy that's kind of waiting for her back home, but then she has this really cute guy here. And then we also have her struggling with trying to figure out what she actually wants to do in life. And it just was a lot of layers. And I was just kind of like, for a lot of the book, I was like, this is fun, but something's missing. And then it kind of hit me. She went on this long, she basically was, I think, her going the streets by herself. She gets followed by someone, and she goes through this long, like, tirade. I don't want to say tirade, but like rant or educational rant about like the safety of women in India and all the court cases and all the instances where women have been abused. And I just remember thinking, as I was listening to this very long thing, that there's just a lot in this book that was trying to be something. With all these things happening in the book, we didn't get a lot of time for us to learn about Sam or their relationship. And I just feel like there was a lot happening, but not enough for me to, like, a lot happening, but not a lot of fleshing out. A lot of, like, what I would consider kind of, like, half ideas left in the air. And I was just left at the end feeling very dissatisfied, even though they got together and the whole happy thing and they figured all the things out. It just felt like it was missing something, truly. The next romance or holiday book I read is 'Tis the Season for Revenge by Morgan Elizabeth. This is like, it kind of gives a little bit of, I don't want to say that. This is following Abby, who thought that she was going to marry her lawyer boyfriend, Richard Bartholomew something the third. They've been dating for I think 4 or 5 years, and she's basically done everything she can to change who she is so he accepts her as more like a more acceptable partner for someone who is a lawyer. Come Halloween, she ends up getting dumped while she's in the car with her boyfriend. He kind of leaves her out there, so her and her friends exact revenge. She is gonna date his boss, the one in charge of him getting a promotion, becoming partner and all that stuff, and then she will stroll with him to the Christmas party that Richard has never allowed Abby to go. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. This was a really cute romance. It was very smutty, very spicy, but I think it was just a lot of fun. And the love interest, very yummy, Damien. He's just a very all-around decent guy. And I really like to see that in a romance where he's just like a decent guy instead of having to pull back all the layers. I ended up dinging this the full 5 because of 2 things. One is definitely more personal preference, I'm not gonna lie. I just am not the biggest fan of like using horror in dirty talk. It just genuinely took me out. A lot of the times when I was reading it, I would be like, yeah, it's so good. And I'd be like, you're my little whore. And I'd be like, ooh. And I get it's supposed to be sexy and spicy. So obviously, like, we gotta throw those things around. But I don't know, I think it's just a personal preference for me that I just don't like that word being used in dirty talk. And the other thing is that I feel like Abby definitely was stupid for stupid's sake. I'm not saying that she was purposely being stupid. She is definitely intelligent in her own way. But there were definitely moments where her friends would pick up what was going on and she'd be like, no, 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 no. Or she'd like lie to herself, and it just felt like she was just being stupid just to keep the plot going and lengthen the plot a little more. But I had a lot of fun with this book. It was so cute and so fun. And I just love Damien as a love interest. He's very much like, I know what I want. This is the girl that I want. And nothing's going to keep me from having this girl that I want. I don't think I'll be continuing on with the rest of the series because I don't think the rest of the series happens during the holidays. Which is a little heartbreaking because I wanted a new holiday series I could just follow until the end. But definitely a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. The next one is a YA novel, and that is The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. I read this as an audiobook. This is basically following Holly Chase after she goes through the Scrooge thing where, you know, like the 3 ghosts, Christmas, present, past, and future, and she fails. She fails and she dies, and she is now kind of set in this like Scrooge Project Afterlife situation. Think like the Tooth Fairy, that movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and she now has to help other Scrooges move on and all that fun stuff. That is until she meets Ethan, another Scrooge is around her age range when she had passed away. And the two of them spark up a connection. I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. I really like the unlikability of Holly Chase from the beginning. I like how she kind of still has that little bit of like unlikability throughout the novel. It doesn't just poof up and disappear as she goes. She's still true to herself, but you find her change and shift a little bit here and there. And then by the end, you're like, oh wow, she has become a better person throughout this process, and it's just been better for her. I really liked it. I think I will probably get a physical copy of this book and add it to my rotation of holiday books I read because this was a lot of fun and it was super cute, and I can see why everyone loves this book so much. And the last holiday-esque book is The Mistletoe Motive by Chloe Leese. This is an adult novella following Gabby, who has been been one of the managers at this really cute, quaint bookstore, and Jonathan, and these two are now put against each other because the bookstore isn't doing so well, so they have to find out who gets let go at the new year. The two of them have this kind of contest to see who can produce more book sales and save the shop. And then while on the side, Gabby has also been messaging this mysterious man online. It seems like sparks are flying for her on both ends, with the guy online and with Jonathan. I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. My biggest complaint with this is that it's not long enough. I didn't realize it was a novella, and then when it ended I was like, what am I gonna do with this knowledge? It was honestly such a lot of fun. Lots of holiday stuff without it being too in your face or too like heavy-handed. The romance was super cute, and I just like that kind of like bickering kind of like romantic relationship. I think is very cute and it's very fuzzy and fluffy. I will also be adding this to the rotation of books that I read every year during the holiday season because I cannot see myself not revisiting these two characters in the future. Then after that, I went on a vampire kick for the remainder of the month. Starting off with 2 books, I say 2 because it was like I read the ebook and then it kind of bled into the novella, which I didn't realize, but that is A Dowry of Blood, and then later on Encore of Roses by S.T. Gibson. I ended up giving A Dowry of Blood 5 out of 5 stars. New favorite. Please keep an eye out for my full review of it because it does kind of include my wrap up from my predictions list from last year. And an Encore of Roses, a 4 out of 5 stars. This is set in a second person kind of narrative following one of the wives of Dracula. Basically, we follow her as she's first turned, as she and Dracula enjoy their like marital bliss, and then Dracula starts to become more and more sus, and then we get the introduction of one wife and then the next wife, and then it just kind of goes downhill from there. I love this book. I can see why everyone loves it. It was so beautiful and heartbreaking all in the same go, and I genuinely felt like there was just like a lot of love between the 3 wives or the 3 spouses of Dracula, and a lot of ways they would go out of their way to protect one another and really just try to defend each other, and I really, really loved that. The only reason I gave An Encore of Roses, which is a novella, or short story, a 4 was because I really was just shocked by the sudden switch in perspective. It was just a very shocking thing that I didn't realize that I had switched over to a completely different person, and I was just really struggling to reconcile the voice that I had been following with this entire time to this one. But it was still so much fun. I love that their love still prevails after all of these years and all that separation. I highly recommend it if you have not read this series or this book. It's so good. And the last book that I read is a physical book. I will also have a review of this available for all of y'all perusing. But that is Immortal Dark by Tigges Girma. This is a YA high fantasy following Kadan, who is on the heels of a court date after she commits a murder. But she finds out that she's the last remaining line of this house that keeps vampires at bay almost, or has to deal with vampires. And through this murder that she committed, she finds out that her sister, who went missing, was actually taken by one of these vampires in this home. So she goes to this school, attends, and tries to, I won't say one up, but tries to figure out the mystery about who took her sister. I gave it a 3. This was kind of, it doesn't sound really mean. This was the most midway, separate ways, that I could finish out the year. Now, I had high hopes for this book. It's dark academia, we have vampires, and they're not white. I had a lot of fun with the world building. I liked the concept of the school. I liked the vampires and the lore behind them, and I liked seeing how it differs from normal vampire lore or other vampire lore that I had just come off the heels from Serpent and the Wings of Night and A Dowry of Blood. My biggest things were a couple of things that dinged me for it. One, this should not have been YA. I think YA really hurt this book in a way that having it been an adult and written for an adult audience would not have. One, the sexual scenes were definitely not meant for a YA audience. 2, I feel like the author could have gotten a lot darker and gotten a lot more in-depth with the things that I felt like were missing for me to at least round it to a 4. I think had it been not YA and had it been adult, I probably would have given this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The other one is that I feel like Kadan was just too separate from there's too much of a separation between Kadan, like the narration, and then Kadan's actual head. There was a point in the book where she was like, wow, I feel I'm starting to get attached to these people. I feel like I'm starting to really enjoy these friends. And I just kind of sat there and was like, I don't know how, because there's been no progression of you having said that you cared for these people, other than needing to pass the classes, and I feel like it was just missing, and I wanted to see her kind of become more humanized. She just felt like a complete she felt like her own little bubble, and that she was just very distant from everything and everyone that was happening around her. So when she shared emotions, I couldn't feel like I empathized with her, because there's such a difference between her as a character and then the narration. And the other thing was that the chapters were really, really short. My biggest issue was that it was so short and it just jumped from topic to topic a lot. There wasn't a lot of transitioning. There wasn't a lot of like markings as to when the day ended and started, or when we were in a new week, or what month we were on. I think I got through a good chunk of the book and then realized that I had no idea if this was a new day, what time of day it was, or how much time had passed since the beginning. It was a lot of things that I wish had just gotten more page time and just more development. I would have loved Kadan as a character had she gotten a little more, we had gotten more page time and more development and just more. I wanted so much more from this book. I do think part of that lack of like development and lack of like attachment to the characters because it was categorized as a YA novel and had to be written for a younger audience. But that is it for my December wrap up. If you have any suggestions for any videos you want me to do or any books you want me to read to make a review of, let me know in the comments down below and I'll get to doing that right away. And next week I'll be having my top books of 2024 out, so that'll be fun. But until next time, stay safe and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.